नमस्कार. MTBमध्ये आपलं स्वागत आहे. मी चंद्रशेखर नेने, आंतरराष्ट्रीय घडामोडींचे अभ्यासक आणि माझ्याबरोबर सौरभ रामचंद्र मुळीक MTBचे स्टाफ आहेत. आणि सध्याच्या इस्रायल पॅलेस्टाईन संघर्षामध्ये इस्रायलची भूमिका काय आहे त्याबद्दल चर्चा करण्यासाठी आपल्याबरोबर इस्रायलचे डेप्युटी चीफ ऑफ मिशन श्री निम्रॉड कलमार हे आलेले आहेत. तर आपण त्यांच्याशी या विषयावरती चर्चा करणार. शलोम. Shalom, Nimrod.
Shalom, namaste, hello.
Namaste. Let me offer first greetings of the Shavuot. Today is Shavuot, second day, right? Last day of Shavuot. So let us offer you greetings of Shavuot.
Thank you.
Let us move into this interview. The reason we wanted to do this is basically we are seeing a very one-sided coverage of the events in Palestine. Most of our TV channels which we see are showing the situation of Palestine only from one side. So we wanted to know your side as well. And let me ask you the first question. Currently, Israel is being bombarded by rockets from Gaza Strip, and it's a very difficult situation because the rockets are falling in a crowded area. How do you find the morale in Israel because of this?
Well, the Israeli people sadly have quite a lot of experience in challenging these kind of situations. Sadly, we are experiencing rocket launching from Gaza into Israel, for many years, and our ability to manage to live, and of course to live a prosperous kind of life and a developing kind of life, is there. It's very challenging. The Israeli people for the past a week have been running in and out from bomb shelters. It's something which is almost unimaginable in any kind of normal country to be able to live like this. However, life in Israel has not stopped. People go to work, people meet each other, people try and maintain their living habits. It's not easy, but the Israeli people are very stable and very strong, not just physically but also mentally.
Okay, it's nice to know that the morale is quite up. Today it looks like over 3,000 rockets have been fired across Israel. Did the Israeli government expect this kind of barrage?
If we expected, well, yes, we know who we're dealing with. We know what kind of creature Hamas is.
Yes.
We've been challenged by Hamas, like I said before, several times. It's not the first round, and every time the story resumes, and rockets are there.
Okay.
The Gazan population is being held hostage, basically, by this organization. Yes. Rockets are being kept and stored throughout the years, waiting for the next round to happen, in schools, in hospitals, in medical centers, in kindergartens. This is how Hamas keeps the Gazian population as hostage, basically as human shields. Our intelligence, which of course, as you know, the Israeli intelligence has a reputation, is aware of what's happening in Gaza. Okay. We know that it's gathering up ammunition to target Israeli cities. And it's not surprised that it has these kind of ammunitions, and it's using it against us.
Okay. Do you find that this has happened right after Mr. Trump has left and Mr. Biden has come? Has it emboldened the Hamas to do this? Any comments on this?
I don't know exactly whether or not Hamas is keeping track on American politics. What I do know is that Hamas is definitely a Palestinian political player. Okay. Just recently, elections were supposed to be held within the Palestinian territories. These elections were postponed.
Right.
And Hamas, as a political player, in our eyes, is seeing this round of violence against Israel as a political tool to have the Palestinian population feel that it's the one that is protecting it, the one that is bringing forward its rights.
Yes.
And we feel that, like I said before, the Gazan population is being held hostage. The Palestinian people are used here as a pawn in this political aspiration game of Hamas.
So, sir, Al Jazeera building and other media offices in Gaza, airstrike by Israel was blown dead. So, why exactly Israel did that?
Well, it's very simple. Of course, Israel respects the right to report the freedom of journalism always, everywhere, anywhere, in time of conflict and in time of peace. As I said before, the Gazan population is being held hostage, and so are media correspondents in Gaza, as they are in Gaza. You'll find it as no surprise that in the same building that the foreign correspondents, foreign media correspondents were sitting, a very strategic office of Hamas was also sitting, and I don't think it's a surprise. They know of the problem that Israel will have in striking such an office, and I think they're using these correspondents again as a pawn and as a human shield.
So, what Israel is going to do about Israeli and Palestinian conflict? What action actually Israel is going to take? What is the future ahead?
Well, first of all, I think the future in Israel's eyes will have to include peace and stability. Peace does not have to be just signing accords and having fancy press conferences. Peace has to be the fact that one side does not shoot at the other.
But sir, actually, I read it in a newspaper, in a social media, that Gaza is a Hamas terrorism organization actually request you to stop the war. It is true.
Israel has no intention on going to war. Israel is a democratic, liberal country with a free economy and a free market economy. You can trust me that a war is in no interest of the Israeli economy and the Israeli people. We can't send our kids to school while this round is going on. We see no advantage in getting innocent people involved as well. It's very, very painful that innocent people, men, women, and children, are hurt by in any side. We have no intention on having this to go on. Israel will seek an end to this violence when the goal will be reached, and that's when Hamas will feel that it's not in its interest to shoot anymore, simply because Israel is not deterred, and Israel has been fighting it down.
Yes. I find something very interesting here, that the foreign journalists were sitting in a building and they didn't know that the building was being used by Hamas. And they said they are journalists and they are finding things and truth and all. It's very surprising that they didn't find this. However, what is the opinion of the Palestinian National Authority, which is in the West Bank mainly, PNA, Palestinian Authority in the West Bank? What is their opinion of Hamas in all this, what is happening? Because I hear they both are at different ends of the spectrum. They are opposing each other.
I think that at least on paper or on record, the PLA is not a part of this round of violence, but I think that its presence is there. Definitely, the fact that that it's in a political quarrel with Hamas was serving as an intention. It was serving as an ambition for Hamas to start this round of violence. I think that it's in the Palestinian Authority's duty to its people and to the Israeli people to act quickly and swiftly to end this violence, to call for everybody on both the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, in Gaza and in the West Bank, to call for stability and to end the violence. I think it's very, very clear that much of the tension that was built in the area was due to the Palestinian organization, the Palestinian terrorist organizations, intention to ignite animosity on the ground. As the Palestinian Authority is supposed to be a responsible side, it's also in its duty to play as a calming agent, and sadly, it's not doing enough effort to do so, and we expect it to do so.
Was it not possible for both the PA and your Prime Minister to issue a joint communique to this effect? Is it not being tried?
Israel sees every diplomatic, every peace-oriented step as important. Like I said before, we don't see an interest going into any kind of military combat. The problem is that in some kind of summit, any kind of summit, you need the main protagonist to be there. I can't see Hamas sitting and discussing with Israel, with the Palestinian Authority, or with any, right-minded side, how it brings peace to the world. Hamas's manifesto still calls for the annihilation of Israel. This is exactly the kind of ideas it's spreading among the population in Gaza, the same population it is keeping hostage, and it's not a rational, really side that can discuss on peaceful terms.
Okay. So, what exactly effect has this current conflict has on Israel's economic, social, and political situation? Because this war going to be very severe.
Israel is a very modern economy, and a very stable one and strong one. Our economy is challenged. It's of course very obvious when you walk around Israeli cities. Cafes, restaurants are shut at the moment. Shops have a difficulty to remain open. People are fearful of leaving their house. This has a strong impact on commerce.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, Israelis, like I said, are very resilient. And as you know here from India as well, during the past year when we had the COVID-19 challenge,
Yes.
lots of people do their business online as well.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure for that as well is there. But definitely, this round of violence is not beneficial in any way, and we would want it to end when the main goal will be reached.
So the Palestinian people of the Sheikh Zara, they say that the house belongs to them and they are being evicted from their ancestral homes. What do you think in this issue?
Well, just last week, Israel's Supreme Court issued an order that will go into depth into this issue. This is a real estate issue. It will be solved, like in every law-abiding country, as Israel is. Every intention of Hamas or any Palestinian organizations to draw a connection between this real estate issue to shooting 3,200 rockets in less than a week is cynicism. And no one should accept that this will be the justification for hurting so many people's lives.
This 3,200 rockets actually has done much less damage thanks to the Iron Dome system which were installed. But there also we hear that out of the 13, only 10 were working. And a second question to that is it not very expensive to stop a rocket using Iron Dome?
Mm-hmm. Well, human lives for us in Israel have no cost. It's definitely not a cheap thing, not a cheap technological tool to maintain. Yeah. But when a rocket hits a school or when a rocket hits a factory, the implication this has on everything is much higher. And this is the kind of life in Israel we have to live. we always have to sacrifice. Iron Dome has given the Israeli government room for flexibility. This is definitely a main anchor in Israel's defense strategy. That Iron Dome protects most of Israel's population when rockets are being shot, not all. Some rockets hit and hit hard, and many Israelis were hurt. Some were killed as well, including just the other day in the city of Ramat Gan, which is a suburb of Tel Aviv. And we are not immune. We're not immune from this rocket launching. When you have 3,200 rockets in just 5 or 6 days, you can't get all of them down. But when you can get most of them down, that's good too.
But does it mean that till their stockpile of rockets is over, this can't stop? What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know how much time they've been piling. I believe that in some time they will seek a ceasefire as well. Israel managed to take down many of Hamas's military leaders as well. I think that they realize that Israel means business, and we are not going to be deterred. And we are serious when we mean that we are going to take every necessary step to defend our population, as every other country would do. And we've hit them back hard. They realize that, and we believe that they will stop when they're going to feel the fatigue. We believe that that's going to be soon.
The Hamas is very popular in Gaza, everybody knows. But we have seen recently communal clashes in West Bank as well. Was this expected, or this is a new dimension on the conflict?
We believe that Hamas has its arms everywhere in the Middle East. I mean, Hamas is not just an organization that grew up from the ground. It's getting ammunition, it's getting its financial support, some from foreign countries, Iran, for example, which give it its support. It has its arms everywhere, including in the West Bank.
Okay.
And it's using proxies and using its partners on the ground to ignite rage against Israel, to ignite fear, and it will use every means to do so. It knows that the population in the West Bank is also suffering from lack of PLA's leadership at times, and it's using this vacuum because of its political quarrel with the Palestinian Authority as well. And basically, many see the population in the West Bank as an easy target, Hamas included.
So, sir, I want to ask that the youth of Palestinian people who are literate, who are more educated, they are turning away from terrorism or not?
We believe that the big majority of the population in the Palestinian territories is peace-seeking. One must remember there are ties between Palestinians and Israelis. Many Palestinians work in Israel. The coin used in the Palestinian territories is the Israeli shekel. There is transportation of people back and forth. The Palestinians have Israel as a very strong economy, which they enjoy living by. Without Israel there, much of the business will not be there. We believe that most people want to live in peace and prosperity, and they don't enjoy the situation where they are kept hostage by a terrorist organization, and but are very fearful to act against it.
Okay, sir. So I actually want another question also, that world's popular media perception is look like it's anti-Israel. So how you are going to tackle it?
Can you repeat this question? I didn't hear.
How you are going to tackle world's popular media perception, which is anti-Israel?
Israeli diplomats and Israeli spokespersons all around the world for the past week have been on the run to change public perception, helping people all around the world understand that Hamas is the reason that this round of violence is happening. I think people that study the facts and not just interpretations of the Palestinian PR programs are able to see this through. I don't think that people, when they sit down and think to themselves, would we accept this kind of life if this was our own? Do not identify with Israel. I mean, imagine if you're sitting with your children at 3 o'clock in the night in a bomb shelter. What would you do? I think when someone tries to put himself into these shoes, into our shoes, then they start identifying with us. This is what we've been trying to do for the past few days, trying to help people understand how it is to be Israel, what it means to be Israel, that we don't enjoy using military power. We don't use military power just for no reason. There's no benefit in this for us. We're doing it purely because this is what a sovereign state is expected to do to protect its population.
Right after the Black Lives Matter movement in America and some similar movement of CA activists in Delhi, New Delhi, we are seeing anarchists are rolling a lot such movement, and we are seeing a repetition of that in West Bank. Do you also agree with it that there is some kind of worldwide anarchist agenda being followed?
Well, honestly, I didn't study this matter so much. I think that there are many groups out there that use anti-Israel animosities in order to raise support. Some of them can be anarchists, some of them can be of other sorts. I don't know a whole lot more than that.
There seems to be a welcome effort. I think yesterday Mansoor Abbas, the leader of RAM party, Arab party, visited a synagogue, and he was attacked from his own party, own people against that, and he said that they are my citizens. Do you welcome such efforts?
I think that all efforts to lower the flames between Israelis and Palestinians and within Israel, as you know, 18% of the Israeli population is Muslim, is what we call Arab Israelis, 18%. Of course, this is an issue. This is a complexity that, especially in these kind of days, Israelis of both Jews and Arabs, 99% of the time live in peace, and we are able to rise upon our differences and to respect one another and to live well with one another. In these times of conflict between Israel and the terrorist organizations, of course, the complexities are in the spotlight, and it's definitely politicians and journalists and social leaders really to help lowering the flames. And of course, we'll have to welcome that.
I was fortunate enough to visit Jordan and Israel, and I could see the marked difference of lifestyle of Palestinians in Jordan vis-a-vis Palestinians in Israel. The living standards in Israel are much higher than those of other countries. Don't you kind of bring this fact to the Palestinian youth that their life is better here than somewhere else? I don't know. I mean, I can understand the Palestinian youth's mentality on this. Any light on this?
I think most realize it. I think it's very, very clear. Like I said before, Israel is a democratic. It's a free market economy in the middle of the Middle East. I think it's a land. It's a state of endless opportunities. Without discrimination, I think it's a place where if you are peace-seeking, you will be able to prosper. And many positive developments have been taking place in the past few years. in the Israeli society where social mobility is possible, and people of all communities, of all backgrounds, are able to enjoy this. And of course, it's without the discrimination for race, belief, gender, and so on. This is something we're very proud of, and of course, we are putting this in the limelight for the whole world to watch. Of who do you believe when you challenge Israel, on TV? Do you believe a terrorist organization that keeps its people as hostages, or do you believe a free market economy where, without discrimination, everyone can prosper?
This, considering in future, both the Jews and Palestinians will have to live together. It's almost certain that you will have to live together. Why not live together peacefully rather than this continuous fight? Are there not actions on both sides to handle this issue? Because I think this is the crux of the matter.
I think that every person would say that that a solution for this kind of complexity between Israel and the Palestinians is something that we should seek, and Israel will welcome this, every kind of initiative, when it's done between two sides, right across the table, when one raises its points and the other one responds, direct negotiations. This is what we call it. We are just waiting for the Palestinian partner to sit to the table and discuss the real essence of what it means to have a future of two states living side by side. At the moment, what you see is that you have a Palestinian Authority not even able to control what happens within the Palestinian lands. I mean, how can we accept to sit and discuss and negotiate when we're having rockets shelled at us by a terrorist organization that claims that itself is the one representing the Palestinian people? Basically, what I'm saying is the bottom line, that Israel will negotiate and Israel will promote a peaceful future when it has a reasonable partner to discuss with.
Don't you have any mediating persons, institutions, countries between these two communities?
Well, of course, the US, of course, is a partner. The EU, some countries in our area of the Middle East have also tried to assist with mediating. By the end of the day, you can have mediators, you can have partners, but you need both sides to be able to recognize the other one's a legal right to exist. We are still waiting for the other side to fully accept that. Hamas, the Palestinian organization, as well, and we need to negotiate with a side which is not attacking us. That you need the other side to be able to recognize within itself, and only when that happens, all the mediators and all the partners can really contribute.
We have had the sad experience of our Indian citizen Soumya Santosh.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she was caught in between the fire, so to speak. And we hope that no such more incidents occur in future. And we really wish that this comes to an end, whichever way it can. And I'm sure that both the Indian government is also trying its best to get this to the resolution. And I'm sure Israeli government is also looking at it. I wish you all the best, wish Israel all the best, and also for the Palestinians to that effect, because they can have a better life if there is a peace. Somebody had said that in Gaza, rather than building roads, they are building rockets. Is that true?
Someone has said that?
In Gaza, rather than building roads, they build rockets, and that's the reason things are so bad in Gaza.
Yes. What we ask the world to ask the Palestinians is, or ask Hamas, is if they were able to use for infrastructures all the resources they're using for not just shooting rockets, but also for digging metro tunnels, what we call metro tunnels, attacking tunnels that they dig for hundreds of meters underneath the underneath the Gaza-Israel border, directly initiated for attacking Israeli towns and villages around the Gaza Strip. If they use the resources for really building infrastructures and not for these kind of hostile activities, I think the Palestinian and the Gazan future would be much brighter than it is today.
Yes, so there is a famous one quote I want to told you that if you want to destruct you, if you have to wish that destruct someone, you first destruct yourself. That Gaza and Hamas is going to do that, like they destruct own self.
Anyway, thank you very much, Nimrod, for agreeing for this interview, because we wanted to get this view also with our Indian media, and that's what exactly we will do. We'll put this interview on the our channel, as well as we'll put a transcript of this interview in Marathi language for our local listeners. And let us hope that we can keep doing this more often, not for this particular issue, I mean for a peaceful issue also.
Of course, there are so many issues to discuss in the relationship between Israel and India, positive issues between Israel and India, Israel and Maharashtra. You know, there are so many things to discuss, and we look forward to speak about them as well.
And in fact, I wish to thank Israel again for the help they gave us in case of COVID issue.
Of course.
So many thanks to Israel for that, and thanks to you for taking this issue forward there. And
Yes.
Let's keep the channels open. We will definitely be in communication.
Thank you. Thank you. Shalom. Bye-bye.
या प्रदीर्घ मुलाखतीमध्ये आपल्याला इस्रायल देशाचा जो पॉइंट ऑफ व्ह्यू आहे तोही समजून आला. ह्याचं महत्त्व अशा करता आहे की भारत सुद्धा थोड्याफार अशाच प्रकारच्या प्रश्नांमधून जात असतो. आपल्या इथेही काश्मीरमध्ये रॉकेटचे हल्ले होत असतात, देशामध्ये कम्युनल राईट्स वगैरे होत असतात. त्यामुळे इस्रायलनी त्याच्याकरता काय केलेलं आहे किंवा काय करणं शक्य आहे हे जाणून घेणं आपल्याला महत्त्वाचं होतं. आणि त्याहून महत्त्वाची गोष्ट अशी होती की इस्रायलची भूमिका ही सहसा जागतिक मीडियामध्ये दिसून येत नाहीये. जागतिक मीडिया सध्या वन साइडेड इस्रायलला दहशतवादी ठरवते, जरी त्यांच्यावरती 3200 रॉकेट पडलेली असली तरीही. तर त्यांची भूमिका सुद्धा आपल्या लोकांपर्यंत पोहोचवावी म्हणून आम्ही हा उपक्रम घेतला होता. तो कसा वाटला ते आम्हाला जरूर कळवा. आणि तुम्हाला आवडला हा इंटरव्ह्यू तर जरूर शेअर करा, आमच्या चॅनलला सबस्क्राईब करा आणि बेल आयकॉन दाबलं तर आमच्या इथे नवीन नवीन प्रोग्रामचं तुम्हाला लगेच इंटिमेशन दिलं जाईल. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद.